Good afternoon, everybody. This is Steve Fletcher with the Trumpet for My People, January 29th, 2022. And I'm going to share this article with you guys that was sent to me by someone off of my Twitter account. And they have been following what I'm showing about March between Purim and the spring equinox. And they said, Steve, you have to see this article. Okay. So I clicked on the link they sent to me, and lo and behold, this is an amazing piece of information. So let's just read it together, and then I'll leave the link for you to this article, and I'll show you something from Stellarium so you can see what they are reporting here. Okay. God of War is coming, March 22nd, 2022. Mars triple conjunction in Capricorn. Will World War III break out sometime in 2022? What month? What is so special about the occult nuance of March 22nd, 2022? Will the triple conjunction of Mars in Capricorn be an omen? So before we go on, let me show you this triple conjunction of Mars in Capricorn. On March 22nd, 2022, we have a triple conjunction in Capricorn between Saturn, Venus, and Mars. Okay? And he's going to explain all of this and why this is important. And but yes, this is an amazing conjunction exactly on this day, when it's their big number is 322, and then it's also March of 2022. 322 could be the day exactly. It could also be the month of 2022. March of 2022 is 322. Okay, and this article is written by Luis Vega. In the spring, at the time when kings march out to war, David sent out Joab and his servants with the whole army of Israel. They destroyed the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah, but David remained in Jerusalem. One evening, David got up from his bed and strolled around on the roof of the palace, and from the roof he saw a woman bathing, a very beautiful woman. 2 Samuel 11:1 and 2. The purpose of this study is to mark an astronomical observation dealing with Mars on March 22, 2022 that might be a turning point in how it's signaling an eventual war that will come right after the spring equinox. One is not saying that World War III will start, but that it is a high watch time for when the drums of war will either manifest or signal its proximity. Of primary concern is that this date and planet Mars enters Capricorn is occultic. The planet Mars is a euphemism for the god of war, crossed through the Golden Gate of the cosmos on January 24-25 of 2022. It is as if it made its grand entrance and has it set itself on a war footing. The trajectory leads to the triple conjunction in the constellation of the Slaughter, Capricorn, then 55 days later. It will be at the heart of the sacrifice on March 22nd, 2022. What is so unique about this date? This is a code for 322, as with the Luciferian secret fraternal order of the Skull and Bones. Who are the Skull and Bones? They are an offshoot Masonic Luciferian secret fraternal order that has one of its two main headquarters and temple on the campus of Yale University in the United States. It is from this temple and chapter that many national and world leaders are chosen. Prospective students get tapped on the shoulder to become an initiate or a neophyte to go through the rigors or hazing of their occultic magic rituals and regalia. Upon graduation, such members are groomed to be captains of industry, commerce, banking, and government. For example, in the USA, such members saturate the State Department, key positions in federal agencies, Congress, NSA, the CIA, corporate media, and financial Wall Street, etc. Many U.S. presidents have been such members, as were notably the chosen Bush presidents and many prior ones. Why? These brothers are but part of a Luciferian cabal. They are frontmen of the Antichrist beast system that rules the world by proxy on behalf of the god of war, death, and destruction, Lucifer, but only until Jesus returns. To this end, also, many of their public monuments are constructed and consecrated with the coordination and brotherly fraternal cooperation of other Masons and Kabbalists. Evidence? Hidden patterns can be seen in main city layouts all over their world capitals. For example, the District of Columbia in the USA is essentially a tribute and glorification to the ancient gods of earth, fallen angels, etc. It all adds up. In Europe, there are counterpart fraternal orders whereby their future world leaders are also groomed to positions of power and prestige. For example, it was revealed in 2020 as some investigated the reset protocols outlined by Klaus Schwab. It was discovered that he is also the schoolmaster of one of a very prestigious centers of producing young globalists. It boasts a long list of European presidents, prime ministers like Macron, and even U.S. state governors like Gavin Newsom. So as to the fraternal secret Luciferian of Skull and Bones, not only do they have the layouts of buildings based on sacred gematria, these orders also make their decision based on astronomical conjunctions, equinoxes, solstices, and planetary alignments. In the case of the Skull and Bones, they chose as their sign, among many, the number 322. What is so special about this number? There are several layers of meaning. The first notion has to do with the month and day of the Western calendar. In this case, the interpretation would be correlated to the third month, March, and the 22nd day. This is also 1 or 2 days after the spring equinox. And depending on the century, in ancient times, the spring equinox was on March 22nd, etc. Thus, the first quarter of the solar year is significant because it is from this time that winter ends and spring begins astronomically. The second iteration and correlation of this number deals with numerology. 322 plus 223 equals 555. Is a microcosm of death and resurrection. It's a pentagram. Now remember, we just had the diamond that was sold, the black diamond that was sold. It was 555.55 carats. Okay, we talked about this, and it signifies great change is coming. Number 555. Well, this number is also connected to 555, and then you have 322 times 233 is equal to 666 when inverted. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 3 is 6. So you have a macrocosm, a hexagram. If one adds the numbers, the result is 7. In the Latin Western alphabet, G is the 7th letter. But if one adds the sequence in reverse, 322 plus 223, the result is 555. This is code in the occult for the process of death and resurrection. This is what is incorporated in their Lucifer rite of the rising of Osiris. The magical ritual is performed by the Masons whenever there is a new U.S. president, for example. It is really casting a spell to control the fall and rise of whomever presides in the White House. Spring equinox. Thus, the triple conjunction involving Mars, the god of war, will consist of Saturn and Venus on such a similar date, March 22nd, 2022. Saturn is a euphemism for Satan, and as one or two of the gas giants, whatever enters the constellation, it is in will magnify that much more to the greatest extent the planet that it conjoins with. In this case, the god of war, etc., Venus, also in the occult, is a euphemism for Lucifer. Venus to them is an antitype of Jesus Christ, who he himself describes to be like Venus, the bright morning moonsat, the bright morning star in the book of Revelation. Thus one could expect a turning point after the spring equinox of eventual war. Now, how that will be or look like remains to be seen, but there are presently 3 war theaters currently about to escalate to a full-blown major regional war. They have to do with Russia, China, and Israel. Now, how the planet Mars plays an astronomical factor is that, as mentioned, such a conjunction on March 22nd, 2022, or 322, converging in the constellation of Capricorn, will enhance its powers, amplified by the conjunction of the other two planets that it will join there, Saturn and Venus. So, how will all this context, the 322 occult background, serve to interpret triple conjunction with Mars, the god of war? Based on what the article opened with, the Bible states that in the ancient world it was in the spring, once the spring equinox turned, that the kings went off to war. Such was the case with King David, although in this case he did not, and it was cause for his downfall as he became distracted and vulnerable. One would suggest that at this present time in the world, the king that has been the USA has also succumbed to not being the leader of the free world, an example as the king of the nations. Cut it down. Given these three major war scenarios, one is of the belief as political scientists that any one of these three theaters or all three will make a major move going forward from March 22nd, 2022. Why? It is because the Bible says so. All three nations are mentioned precisely as end-time players that will plunge the world into the next major war that will affect the entire world. In fact, that this is the stated and publicly disclosed plan of the Masons per their Grand Master Albert Pike. They designed the Luciferian plan to have three world wars that would usher in their New World Order, as stated by H.W. Bush's decree on September 11, 1999, during his address to Congress and the nation. What will be the coming critical war, in one's estimation, will deal with Israel. Many Bible scholars and those who study the end times believe it is next on the horizon. That perhaps starting on March 22nd, 2022 or 322, a war will break out with the Muslims, will seek to destroy Israel once for all, and it will be the Psalm 83 war fulfilled. And the significance of this, it will be because of this war that the Antichrist will come on the scene to thereafter guarantee Israel peace and security for 7 years. Okay. This will then allow for the building of the third temple and the start of Daniel's 70th week. In that case, if one scenario is actually in line with what the Bible has laid out, will occur regardless. Thus, one will be observing with much anticipation that from that point forward on March 22nd, 2022, 322, it will turn out to be the escalation and eventual military confrontation energized by the cosmic powers in the alignment with the god of wars, Mars. And this due to its powers being amplified by the planetary conjunction of Saturn and Venus in the constellation of the Slaughter, Capricorn. But to reiterate, the main rationale for why one believes that the main contingency of how the coming war will play out has to do with Israel is based on the parable of the unfruitful fig tree in Luke 13:6. A certain man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came and sought fruit thereon, but found none. Then he called to the gardener who attended to his vineyard, and said to him, Behold, these 3 years I come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and find none. Cut it down. Why does it encumber the ground? The gardener answered him and said, Lord, let it alone this year also, and I shall dig about it and manure it, and if it bear fruit, then it is well, but if not, then after that thou shalt cut it down. Note then that the 70th anniversary since the 1948 rebirth of Israel was in 2018. Then 3 years have passed since that amazing prophetic milestone. Now in 2022, Israel has ended its 73rd year cycle, or 3-year probation, being from 2018 plus 3 years to equal 2021, meaning that the additional 1 year of grace would be the 2022nd year within the 4-year cycle, meaning Israel has not produced the fruit of repentance, nor can it at this time, not until Jesus returns at his second coming. It means that 2021 to 2022 year in the rabbinical calendar corresponds to the 7th year of the current Sabbath cycle, to which then Israel will be cut down during the coming tribulation. This then strongly suggests that by the end of 2022, Israel will go into the 70th week of Daniel. This is if one is interpreting and reading not only the biblical parable, Daniel's prophecy, but the astronomical alignment that deals with the god of war in Mars tribal conjunction in the sign of the coming slaughter, Capricorn. Okay. Now, I just wanted to share this with you guys. Obviously, it's a long read. You could definitely just have read it yourself or read it yourself. I'll leave the link for you. But this goes with everything else we're watching. I just shared a video with you about Ukraine really being the smokescreen for Armageddon. Ukraine is the smokescreen for Armageddon. So if you haven't seen that, please watch that. I'll leave the link for you to this article and to all my videos that I'm showing the importance of Purim between March 16th and the spring equinox on March 20th, all the way through this conjunction on March 22nd. March 16th through March 22nd, high watch for the rapture of the church and quite possibly the beginning of the Great Tribulation and World War III / Armageddon. I pray you are blessed. This is Steve Fletcher with a trumpet for my people, the sign of his coming revealed.